Well, hospital patients in England would have the right to be treated on single-sex wards and transgender people placed in rooms on their own under proposed changes to the NHS constitution. That's an announcement coming from the government today, and I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the Health Secretary Victoria Atkins. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So, within this announcement about the NHS constitution, we picked up one aspect of it, and just talk us through the thinking behind this. You can say that everyone, if they request to be so, can be treated by someone of the same biological sex or be in a single-sex ward.
Yes, very much so. And the NHS Constitution, just by way of context, it's the document whereby we put the principles and the values of the NHS into this single document. And it's updated every decade, so it's a really important document. And today we're launching the consultation so that everybody can have their say as to what should be in the Constitution. But what we want to do is, as a range, as you rightly say, of measures across the Constitution, we want to ensure that biological sex is respected, and that if someone wants, for example, to have an intimate examination by a person of the same biological sex, then they can make that request, and it is dealt with appropriately and with respect, and recognising that person's right to privacy and dignity and safety. And we do this because we know that sometimes it has been difficult in the past for people on the front line, staff on the front line, to navigate some of those conversations. And we just want to make it as clear as possible, both for patients and for staff, that people should be able to make these requests.
Does that mean that a transgender person can't make the same requests?
So, of course they can, and it applies to everyone. So it could get a little bit complicated, I accept that. But of course, this is about everybody feeling that they have the right to request that particular type of care, should they so wish. And of course, clinicians and others will do their absolute best to fulfil that. We have also said that in the consultation that we would like language to be clearer as well. So we know that in some parts of the NHS, some language is used, which is meant with the best of intentions to be inclusive, but it can, I think, also actually exclude people. So, for example, I visited a wonderful maternity unit recently, full of warmth and joy and happiness with wonderful members of staff, but they were talking about service users. And I realised after a while they meant women, or mums-to-be, or mothers, the language that we would use in conversation when talking about someone having a baby. And so that sort of language, if we shouldn't have to eradicate women from our language in order to be inclusive and welcoming. We can use language, and of course, if somebody walks in, they want to have a specific phrase or term used, of course we respect that, but it's also about ensuring that biological sex is respected.
I wanted to move on and talk about the Rwanda plan, and the Home Office document that came out sort of quietly yesterday said that 5,700 migrants have been identified for removal. How many of those do you expect or hope will actually be deported to Rwanda by, let's say, the end of this calendar year?
So the Home Office have identified this first cohort, and some of them are, the way in which people who are in this group are accommodated differs. So some are already detained in facilities, others are perhaps staying with friends or family. But the Home Office is in contact with much of the cohort. I know that there are reports today that some of the cohort have stopped reporting, but this, I'm afraid, is the Home Office is used to this operationally. Law enforcement officers are used to this, and so the expectation is that we remove that group of people as well as others by the end of the year.
So all 5,700.
In fact, and the Prime Minister, I should in fairness to the Prime Minister, he said he wants the first flights to take off within 10 to 12 weeks. So the urgency of this is paramount.
Well, it's first flights, we know that timing. That's obviously going to be hundreds of people, not thousands. But the aim is all 5,700, even though, as you were pointing out, that only 2,145 can be identified. The government still expects all of them to go this year.
Of course so, because we want the message to go out loud and clear that if somebody doesn't report as they should do, they shouldn't think that they'll get away with it. They will be found. Law enforcement have a variety of measures to find people. They will be found and they will be removed. And so this is, I don't pretend this is going to be easy. And we are very much, we're doing this. We've passed the Act at long last. Labour voted more than 100 times against tackling illegal immigration. We want to deal with this. We don't pretend it's easy, but we believe that Rwanda is one of the many tools we have at our disposal.
Wanted to ask about Dan Poulter and his defection. The extent to which that was a personal blow for you as Health Secretary and the extent to which it damaged morale in your department and the government as a whole?
Well, of course, you know, I was sorry to see Dan go. I was also, if I'm honest, puzzled, because I've been Health Secretary now for some 5 months, and Dan had never raised these concerns with me. And I would expect anyone who has concerns about the NHS, I would hope that they would come to me and you know, discuss them with me. And I will do everything I can to try to deal with those concerns and to answer those questions. But Dan, sadly, never asked me about those. In fact, the only time he did ask me in recent months was to ask me to speak at a fundraising event of his, which I wasn't able to do. But it's a great shame that he's decided to...
He raised no concerns?
No, no. Which is why, and when you look at his article, I'm afraid it's just factually incorrect. So we are spending record amounts on the NHS. And we have record numbers of doctors and nurses in the NHS. And obviously, you know, my every waking moment is spent working on how we can improve productivity, because with that investment, with those staff, we want to ensure that we're getting more people through, and we're beginning to see progress. But I accept, of course, it's been tough after the pandemic.
Of course, the mood overall in the NHS, we have tons of doctors on and nurses. Perhaps he was onto something there at least. Just a quick final question about the Prime Minister's mood. We were talking off camera beforehand about your cabinet meeting coming up today and some of the tone of those. I mean, he's had some challenges like defections like that. He's got a cliffhanger, as it were, to this week with the local elections. Is he tense? Is he relaxed? Is he upbeat?
So Rishi is the most extraordinary person in that. He's so incredibly bright, and my goodness me, do you need someone who is intellectually up to the job in the role of number 10. He's also very, very good at handling the pressures that every Prime Minister faces. You know, on any one day, he will be looking at issues relating to national security, through to NHS waiting lists, through to ensuring that we are meeting our plans to reduce illegal immigration. He's in really good form. We know, you know, politics is a tough business. We know that, but my goodness me, he's ready to take on the next phase of the government. We have got plans in place. We are now focused on delivering them. And when it comes to the NHS, for example, I'm really pleased that after a very tough time with the pandemic, we're beginning to see waiting lists reduce, but also importantly, through the Constitution, we're ensuring that we're building the values and the principles of the NHS into its foundations for the next decade as well.